Zimbabwe cash crisis worse. Talking about Venezuela once again.
Systemic important banks. They removed the one factor called monetary awareness.
Hey there, hope all is well. Back here today with some more RT News updates. As you can tell from today's title, we're going to be talking about the most expensive gas on the planet, and it happens to be in the country of Zimbabwe, where roughly it's about $15 a gallon. And so the changes were brought about all of a sudden, and of course, whenever changes are made without the public's awareness, they tend to react very violently. And so as of now, there's been about 200 or so people injured, as well as a couple of deaths from people protesting in the disapproval of the government increasing gas prices without any warning. Today, I want to share an article or two with you on some of the developments in Zimbabwe, but more importantly, as we've seen from prior events, such as what's happening in France, whenever the gas prices spike in the midst of turbulent economic times within a country, it's only natural that people will respond, and unfortunately, it happens to do with a lot of violence. So before I dive into today's articles, as always,
next recession.
Recession will be a recession.
We're going to hit a recession.
The date of the next recession.
A U.S.-only recession typically lasts 8 to 10 months.
A crash is coming. Now, whether it's 6 months from now, 12 months, 36 months, no one knows.
If you have the right plan to set up, you can make a lot of money from this.
So as I mentioned, today I have two articles, one from mainstream news here in America and another one from Australia, of which they both have similar stories, yet different gas prices. But before I actually dive into that, I want to share with you a video that I grabbed off of the internet in which someone recorded with their cell phone, it looks like, what's happening actually on the streets there from a news source in Zimbabwe. So take a look at this.
Protests intensifying for another day, this time in Epworth, just outside the capital Harare. They flared up on Sunday following an announcement by President Mnangagwa of a fuel price increase. Riot police fired warning shots to disperse protesters, injuring 3 people.
The police is attacking people. Because people want our country to be well, but the police that are killing people, they're killing us.
The police, they are destroying people. What the case? And the problem, the people that are not demonstrating to kill people, but actually they are demonstrating about the ship, about the world that they are living. But actually the people that are destroying people.
We are fellow citizens. We are going to fight back those police officers. We are not afraid.
So here's one of the articles here from abc.net.au, and it says Zimbabwe protests turning deadly after petrol prices become most expensive in the world. And so here you see the picture that I used for my background. But give you an idea what's going on here, I'll thumb through it, but more importantly, take time to scroll down below and read for yourself. It says street clashes in Zimbabwe have turned deadly, with security forces confronting protesters who are railing against a hike in fuel prices during the country's worst economic crisis in a decade. So right now they're in an economic crisis. The last one was prior to the Great Recession, and we know what happened to everyone around the world with that one. It says several people have been killed and at least 200 arrested in the midst of a nationwide strike. Says the violence comes amid ongoing economic turmoil with chronic unemployment and an acute shortage of hard currency in the country. So if you've been paying attention to what's happening in Zimbabwe, you know they no longer use their own national currency because it was hyperinflated away. So they use dollars as well as South African rands, but yet dollars, Federal Reserve notes, have become very precious there and they've become scarce. Says the strikes and protests were called after the government increased the price of petrol by 150% without any warning in a bid to ease fuel shortages. And so basically whenever prices get low, you're running low on something, just hike the price of it, which will make it harder for the average person to be able to afford. It says Zimbabwe is now the most expensive place in the world to buy petrol, with a liter costing $4.60. And so there's about 3.78 liters in a gallon, so that equates to well over $15 according to this article here. Scroll down, you see a person being wheeled in a barrel who's probably in a protest. It says the average wage in Zimbabwe is about $320 a month, but the unemployment rate is 90%. 90% of the population are unemployed or well underemployed, with most people working in the informal economy in the streets, hustling. Says the government offered public service a wage increase after the protests turned deadly. So we saw what happened in France once the prices increased as well. President Macron came out and increased the minimum wage by 100 euros, as if that really eased the pain of people's pockets. Said it has promised public workers a supplement of between 5 and 23% of their salaries for the next 3 months. So here you have a government that's broke, that doesn't have a reserves, offering promises of increasing pay 5 to 23%. Where's it going to come from? I don't know. It says social media disabled amid looting and riots. So one of the main things, they don't have access to internet in reference to social media sites to actually share this. So you won't actually be able to find much of this information becoming a popular subject matter on the social media sphere because the government has put restrictions on some of the internet. It says here, people burned tires and barricaded roads as the protests swelled, and most shops and schools in the main cities of Harare and Bulawayo were shut down. It says there were eyewitness reports and videos of looting and a lot of riot police using tear gas to disperse crowds. Scroll down some more, gives you quote from people who are probably in there or around that area. It says it appears as if the government has shut down the internet in Zimbabwe. I can only post this because I have a VPN. So this gentleman probably is in Zimbabwe, and because he's using a VPN service, he's able to share this information with us. And it says data shut down in Zimbabwe. Most people are using a VPN or virtual private network. And scroll down some more. It says the ruling Zanu party, led by President Emmerson Mnangagwa, has been unable to reverse the country's economic collapse since it won elections in August last year. So this gentleman here is a newly elected president in the midst of an economic crisis there, and he's starting off on the wrong foot by jacking up prices. But that's what happens when you're a nation that has made too many promises without the ability to live up to those promises. And I'm sure a lot more countries around the world will be feeling those same side effects. Scroll down a little bit more. This is a video I just played for you briefly here. It says Zimbabwe is burning while Mnangagwa eats cake in a Dreamliner. So apparently, scroll to this next article here. In the midst of this turmoil here, the president has left for the economic forum in Russia while his countrymen back home are rioting and looting and everything. Scroll down a little bit more, says some of the same thing, just different images. So scroll down a little bit more, it gives you a different price of the gasoline price. And I'm assuming that was on Saturday, so it's probably going up to that $4 or so. But it says on Saturday night, President Emmerson Mnangagwa announced a 150 full price hike, saying it has meant to ease access to fuel that has been in short supply for months. Says the hike meant that petrol prices rose from $1.24 a liter to $3.31, just like that. So what I want to do is just shine a little light what's happening in Zimbabwe and how we should enjoy the current price of gas that we have here in the United States of America, especially given that it's extremely low at this current moment. But then again, we have people in other countries that are not able to enjoy the privilege of having a current reserve currency that affords us the privilege and the opportunity to have gas prices at this current price here in this country. But yet this is happening to us in Zimbabwe as of right now. And we know how the whole France situation started in something similar with a much smaller price hike in gasoline. And of course, we know how France is burning right now as we speak. And it's good to say Zimbabwe will be doing the same. And I imagine into this year, there'll be more citizens taken to the street in protest as their local economies come crashing down. So other than that, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you find this informative, feel free to share this information, give it a thumbs up, and I look forward to bringing you more news. See you later.